All right. Welcome back to our after the episode discussion of Book of Boba Fett. I don't know who's got me on audio, but I can hear myself. Tonight we're going to talk about episode 1 and 2. And I guess I probably should have said yeah, they're going to be spoilers. This is unscripted, unedited, pure raw from an adult perspective, so there will be swearing involved.
We're gonna talk about, penis size and that sort of thing.
No, we're not gonna do that. No. We might talk about how the main character looks like a old wrinkled penis. That's fine if that's what you want to talk about. But we're gonna be talking about Book of Boba Fett episode 1 and 2, and I wanted to do this because when I was during my Destiny days, there was a podcast I listened to that used to do Mandalorian when the Mandalorian first came out, spoilers, right? And I would listen to that religiously. And I say that because I think here we can have more fun. To be honest with you, like, this is an open dialogue, right? I could disagree with you, and this has nothing to do with fucking game mechanics, whether Boba Fett somehow's got green armor again versus red armor, or not red, like worn armor, or why Fennec Shade has a digital abdomen. Just saying.
Cybernetic.
Yeah, whatever the fuck you want to call it. We can now discuss all of these things. So we're gonna do two things to begin with. The first thing is we're gonna go around the room and you can have 2 minutes and that's it, because I don't want to spend 8 hours having this after hour or after podcast shit. But you can have 2 minutes to talk about what you liked and disliked about episode 1. We're gonna start there, and then we'll do episode 2. And then we could get into some of the critiques and some of the longevity type things that are going to come out of this and how it actually affects the Star Wars series. Because I think this is a pivotal moment for Disney. And if Disney takes this as a softball and kind of just says, hey, free fucking money, whatever, this will fail and fall flat on its face. So, who wants to begin?
I will hold until last.
Okay.
Sure, I'll go first. I'll take the initiative. So, episode 1. The only thing I didn't like about episode 1 is that it was like 30 minutes long. I was expecting a more of a bigger episode where they would go into a little more detail of it. That was my only negative about episode 1. Besides that, I love that they've gone back to really show to kind of retcon the history of Boba Fett, showing what happened after the events of Return of the Jedi, leading to him getting his armor stolen, and then just basically reinventing the character. What now? What is Boba Fett going to be now that he no longer has his Mandalorian armor, what he identified himself with? I think that episode was a really good stepping stone for the series so far, because it's showing, rebuilding the character from what we knew him from the brief interactions between the different shows that he's been on, the obviously Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, where he has limited lines, and just really going more into the character, what that character is like. Just seeing where they're progressing also in the underworld, the power vacuum that was left with the death of Jabba the Hutt, and showing what's going on with the syndicates in the Outer Rim. I think that's another big piece of the lore that we're missing from Star Wars so far, because they focus so much more on the events of the war. Obviously the Republic and the Empire, and not really focusing much on the underbelly of Star Wars, which does have a big impact because their reach is everywhere in the series. When you read all the different books and all the different media, they're everywhere, and it's really interesting to see how they can affect the lore for Star Wars. Yeah.
So, for me, I think I agree with that sentiment that they're actually exploring avenues they've never had. Right? There is an immense exploration opportunity that they've ignored. To begin with, the first part of Boba Fett that I like is the fact that we haven't seen a bunch of fucking Force users walking around dominating the screen. Okay?
Yep.
one of the most disappointing things in Mandalorian 2 is Luke Skywalker walks in and takes the kid, especially because fucking the rest of it's already written. So we know something happens. Either Grogu goes into hiding, or Grogu dies, or Grogu becomes a villain. maybe one of the big villains. I'm just saying, to me, the biggest issue Star Wars has is it focuses on only the Force users being the culpable characters, and the Mandalorian started to stray, away from that, and then kind of went right back to Force users. And it's like, fuck off. Like, for Christ's sake, can we get something in Star Wars that's more real, right?
It's called Solo.
Yeah. All right. I like that movie. I like that movie in fairness, but not as much as I've liked some of the TV shows. All right. So going back to the actual show, though, like, what I did not like about the first episode is it felt like it dragged on. It didn't feel like it was a great story to begin with. Yeah, like, I don't care how Boba gets out of the Sarlacc pit. Like, that's a pretty improbable escape as it is. Great, good for him. I did like seeing him develop the relationship with the Tusken Raiders. I think that's a bonus and a benefit. And I think if you go back and actually watch some of the other Star Wars stuff, you can see how they got there from that. Like, you can actually see the connections, the ties, how, like, Boba Fett is helping them move past just being, raiders, right? What I love about the series is that they're starting to introduce a different dynamic. We're starting to see, let's go away from this good versus evil. Now, I can't guarantee they're not going to turn Boba Fett into this good character. What I need to see is where we get more into the books, like where Thrawn is a little bit more of this neutralized, I'm a genius, but I could be a piece of shit or a good guy all at the same time and play both sides. That's where I want this show to go. That's where the show should go, in my opinion, because it'll break this good versus evil bullshit that we run into. And the reason I say that is because if we want to make Star Wars a Game of Thrones-esque style show in the long run, even if we have a bunch of intertwining shows, Boba Fett has the ability to change the tide and the momentum with introducing a different dynamic of characters that we've not seen before. And the last thing I have to say, and I'm going to say it as a negative thing, and then I'll let Charles have it, is I do not think the Boba Fett character is a good actor either.
Timur Morrison?
Yep, I just don't think he's that great of an actor. I just don't see him as Boba Fett in the same way I see, like, Din Djarin, in that Mandalorian role. Like, I just don't feel him as a very I just don't feel he's embracing the role, I guess, just personally.
Okay, so I'm gonna step in on this one. So here's the thing. He has to be a good actor for Boba Fett in the same way that the 5 teenagers had to be good actors to be Power Rangers. If 99% of your life is spent with a mask on your face, it doesn't matter if you're a good actor. They could have hired anybody to be the Mandalorian under that mask and just used his voice. Just like they did with David Prost as Darth Vader, because the actor that played Darth Vader wasn't the voice of Darth Vader. They were 2 completely different people. Period. End of story. They didn't have James Earl Jones when they took the mask off. It wasn't Mufasa underneath the mask of Darth Vader. So it doesn't matter. All right. Secondly, while yes, I agree the story for the first episode could be better, the reason that I'm not pressing that is because I look at the origin portion, or at least what leads into this, as season 2 of The Mandalorian, right? So this is Mandalorian 2.5, as well as being the Book of Boba Fett, right? We're able to take off from where the Mandalorian left off. What I didn't like, and I've learned to make peace with it as I've watched episode 2 and I'm kind of seeing how they're building the character. What I didn't like is, up until now, minus the one mistake that wound up in the Sarlacc pit, Boba Fett's been a badass. Even when he reappeared in Mandalorian. Like, he just showed up like, look, I know who I am. Let me teach you a thing or two, rookie. And just went to town. Like, he blew up the, spoiler alert for season 2, but he blew up the dang Razor Crest with impunity. He didn't care. That's just who he is. And then we have 6 little ragtag, like, looks like an extra from a Nick Jr. television show, jumping out with stun batons and riot shields, and that's all it takes for Master Assassin and Master Boba Fett to get wrecked and have to be saved by 2 Gamorreans who had been apparently captured and in captivity forever until Boba Fett decided. Now, again, bridging into 2, and I'm not going to specify because I know we're not on episode 2. They at least explain who the ragtag group was. It's not being such a ragtag group, and they're lending a little bit more to the recovery section of Boba, because I have to remember that in this timeline he's probably in his 40 or 50s and without the Force to aid his sensory capabilities, so he doesn't have the reaction time of, say, Luke or Obi-Wan did at this similar age. He's relying on essentially an Iron Man helmet, and the rest of it is his own reaction time. So when I'm 40. I don't know that I could take on 6 dudes, especially with riot shields. You know what I mean? Like, a flamethrower, sure, missile, sure, but in that close range, launching a missile at the guy standing next to you is going to hurt you just as much as it hurts him. So sometimes you got to take a beating to not kill yourself.
So, side note on that particular part. So the shields that they have are similar to Rey shields, so that if he would have actually taken a shot against them, it would have bounced back and either hit himself or hit Fennec. So that's why they couldn't exactly use that. Now, he does have flamethrowers, and they obviously had their feet available, exposed, where he could have just burned all their feet to the ground. And good luck trying to hold your shield and a baton with burning feet. But, it was an ambush, and sometimes in the heat of the battle, especially in older age, you don't exactly think of that on the fly. The
other thing that we have to look at in Chris is to speak to not being a good actor in reference to the role. And this is where I would disagree with it. Not because I think that he's an amazing actor, because I've never seen him in anything other than voice acting for the Clone Wars and playing Jango/Boba. But when we look at Boba Fett as a character, when we look at Boba Fett as that story, he's largely been alone and left to be raised by other bounty hunter culture since 10.
Exactly.
So no, he's not the most animated, but he wasn't a 19-year-old farm boy that wanted to sign up for the military. He wasn't 30 when we were introduced to his character. The last major vocalization of Boba Fett was a 10-year-old kid who watched his dad fly off and he never came back.
So
we fast forward to 30 years later, Return of the Jedi, and now we've got Boba Fett with 4 lines. So to say he's not acting his character when his character was previously a 10-year-old and then an adult with 4 lines, I think is relatively not in line.
Sure, except for the fact that there's books that he appears in, there's comics that he appears in.
But none of those matter right now. Those are all legends.
No, they're not. They're not all legends.
Yeah, not all of them are.
They're not all legends. So that's no. So for example, I can't remember the name of the book, but the last book I read with Asajj in it is not a Legends book, and Boba Fett's in that, even if it's very briefly. And the emotion he shows in that is a million times more than this show. Like, the character cast is just or keep your fucking helmet on. At least give us bullshit guidelines where we with the Mandalorian, we had to guess his things. I honestly don't think the character for the Mandalorian is that great of an actor either, but he had the ability to, or they created the ability to show empathy, to show different ranges of emotion with him. And when they and I'll give an example. When because I just rewatched season 2 of The Mandalorian, and when he first meets Bo-Katan and the her whole clan, he gets super fucking pissed, angry pissed, and he doesn't raise his voice or do any of the other things, but without seeing his face, how angry he is based on what they've set up. And this
And
is
then
where
they shot that in the foot.
well, they had to because they showed an evolution of character. Because in the long run, let's be honest, like when they named that aspect as a cult, that's kind of true. Like the way of the Mandalore, the true Mandalorian, where we have to have all these little specific things and we can't change anything. That's kind of cultish. Like that's pretty bad. You know, now maybe they did some really good things. There's a lot of American cults that do good things for people, but there's still issues behind them, right? And the ability to evolve and change and adapt based on the climate and the capture and the atmosphere is different. Now, I won't say I'm going to be excited if the Mandalorian sits on Mandalore throne. I don't like that. I'd rather see Boba Fett, Boba Fett in that position, even if he doesn't fit that, because to me, the Mandalorian, that's not who he is. He's not this leader. Boba Fett, though, on the opposite hand, is a leader. You can see some of those aspects in him, and you can see like Episode 2 gave an evolution that Episode 1 just didn't do justice for, right? And I enjoyed Episode 2 a million times more than Episode 1. Like, I will say, if Episode 2 had been like Episode 1, my interest would just be gone. It just would. But because of it, I don't care as much about Episode 1. And yeah, I like Nabi said, yeah, it was too short. Or JJ, you said that, too short.
Yeah, it was too short.
I think you could have taken some of the elements out of 2 and put it into 1, and 1 would be a million times better. And then you could have opened 2 up. I don't care about the fight. I know he's old. I don't care. I don't care about the Bacta tanks. You know, I don't care about him. He gets out of the Sarlacc pit. I do like some of the engagement he has with the Raiders. And I think what needs to be explored, or what I hope they explore, is the fact that, like, why didn't they kill him? Why did they, like, they made it out to be this basic slave mentality. We're only keeping you as a slave, but it makes no sense. That doesn't follow a lot of the traditional lore. I get Tusken Raiders had slaves, but I don't see that aspect. When Boba Fett started to teach them and they started to listen, right? That shows like true leadership, right? That shows that transition where he's saying, hey, I'm not just this guy that takes orders and is really good at my job. I'm the guy that is going to help mentor you to be a better culture, right?
I don't
know.
So
I don't see him changing the culture. And I think we talked about this last week off air. But when you look at every major time that there has been a Tusken Raider interaction in the Star Wars universe, they are taking slaves. They tried to take Luke if he had to have been saved by Obi-Wan. They took Anakin's mother as a slave. They took Boba Fett as a slave. This is a part of their culture. It's not they're a tribalistic culture that sees the opportunity to let somebody else do the work. They take them for their usefulness and they let them do their job. I don't see this as being a change to their culture. Now, he proved himself to be useful beyond that. I don't think that they've ever shown themselves to be a stupid culture. I am enjoying the idea of them building the Tusken Raiders to be something other than a ripoff of the Sand People from Dune. I want them to be something different. I want Disney to mass market a little lizard that can jump into my nose and make me hallucinate, so I can find sticks in the desert. I live in Florida. Maybe they'll give me one that'll let me roam off into the dang swamp, and then I'll come back with my own gaffy stick. I don't know. But when it comes to Episode 2, I will agree, Chris, that I enjoyed Episode 2 immensely more than I enjoyed Episode 1. I thought, and another thing too, when we look at the characterization and Boba Fett's acting, so far we've seen him in like 3 scenes with other people who talk. Other than that, it's been that's what he has to go with to talk back to, or Fennec Shan's awesome 2 lines that she gets that are each 2 words each. He hasn't really had a whole lot to play off other than the one Twi'lek that came from the mayor and the Twi'lek in the brothel that he visited that filled his helmet full of money. Outside of that, there hasn't been any real dialogue,
Dialogue.
other than the dialogue that he had between the Wookiee bounty hunter, who didn't talk at all, and the twins, the Hutt twins that came to visit to reclaim Jabba's palace, that he just basically threw up a middle finger and said, if you want it, step up. Like, he fuck around and find out. Let's see what happens. And they agreed that they wanted to test that assumption at a later inconvenience, and went about their way. He hasn't really had a whole lot of opportunity for dialogue. When we look at the first season of The Mandalorian, you have the same robotic style of delivery, but he had to interact with multiple different communities of people. So far, Boba Fett has interacted with Tusken Raiders and Fennec Shand, and that's it. So I'm hoping when we get more of an interaction from him, I don't know, he could be robotic through the entire episode and prove you 100% correct. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that we need more than 2 episodes to determine whether this guy's going to throw it or not.
And I get your point. I just say there's so many other instances where he does talk. It's just not, because it's not in a movie. They're ignoring it. I mean, okay, let's go back to the Wookiee. Right? Like,
that was such a good scene.
That's a huge, like, hey, let's nod at the comics, right? That's huge. That's big.
Agree.
Like, that shows that they're actually looking into more than just the 9 movies that we have, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Those Wookiee eyes.
And so that's where I have a harder time with how they're portraying that character. And I'm not going to say whether it's bad writing, bad acting. Maybe I'm wrong in saying it's a bad acting. That's fine. That's on me. I shouldn't say that specific thing because that might not be true. But
yeah, he might want to do more than what they're allowing him to do, because that's their vision of how Boba Fett should be.
Yes. I don't agree with that style of vision, only because I've read the comics. Like, I'm probably not as big a Boba Fett fan as you are, but I do like mercenaries, and I do like that scummy side of things, because I'm not the wholesome. I don't like wholesome things. I usually like the evil pieces of it. Right? Like,
well,
I'm a horror movie guy, so.
The other part of it, right, is opportunity for dialogue, right? Because imagine, they have this grand entrance. I'm speaking specifically to the part where the Hutt twins come in and then they introduce their muscle, right? It's like, imagine the muscle comes in and he's there just to intimidate Boba, right? Because they're trying to, like, reclaim what they think is rightfully theirs, and they're going to show the muscle to say, hey, we have this Wookiee who's going to come in and lay down the law and you don't listen to us. He's not there to be like, hey, buddy, I'm here, and I'm here to take over this place here. I mind backing up. Imagine if you would have said that. Like, the opportunity of dialogue there at that point is just for the Wookiee to show up, be intimidating just by being there, and then just leave. He doesn't have to say anything else. He just needs to, be there, grunt a few times, and just leave, because he's there as the enforcer of the will of the Hutt twins.
And speaking to Chris's point, in that exact same scene, though, the helmet didn't come off. So the deadpan, like, level-headed delivery of dialogue with the helmet on works, because you don't need it. He's being that plain-faced, thing.
It's the mob boss.
Right. But on the flip side of that, when you look at Boba Fett teaching the Tusken Raiders how to drive the sloop, and he starts laughing and doing the arm thing, I get what they're doing, right? They're giving a human aspect of him trying to teach something. That's not Boba Fett's character. It never has been. Like, I would have appreciated, like, deadpan, like, why aren't you learning this? Because that's, like, he's never been the laughy, jokey guy. He's freaking Boba Fett. He's the bounty hunter. He is the deadpan, I'm going to kill you if you owe somebody that wants to pay me. Like, period.
Semi-Stockholm syndrome?
Yeah, and I'm fine with that. But, like, to see him do in that same episode go from jokey flashback, like, these people want to kill me, but I'm useful, so I'm going to make fun of them because they can't ride a motorcycle, and then in the next scene be like, nope, I'm stone-faced. Like, You can't have it both ways. He's either
Yeah,
got
but at
to
the same
be
time,
the badass stoic bounty hunter, or the comic relief, or give us somebody else
yeah,
to
but
be the comic relief.
okay, I understand that point, right? About him maintaining his character, his stoic character, being that stern person who wants to make sure that people just do what he wants them to do. But at the same time, he's in survival mode, period. Whether he's trying to teach people there or not, or just sitting down as a slave. He's trying to survive. And by surviving, he needs to be able to communicate with these people, hey, this is what they need to do. And he's already learned that being stoic and trying to take things by force like that is not going to get through to them because they don't understand that. So yes, he does look ridiculous trying to teach them how to ride the damn staff thing, but at the same time, it makes a point. Yeah, the sloop. It helps him push that point, and it does serve as a little bit of a comic relief for that particular episode, because we've been through a pretty dark part so far where he starts off as a slave, without overly stating that he is exactly a slave, and they're trying to break the levity of that particular type of situation where he's in. And on top of that, they're trying to, the whole point of this series that they've been pushing since they started these commercials is, I want to rule with respect. And they're showing how he's learned to do that by interacting with the Raiders and earning their respect by doing that, not being this commander stoic type that he's just training people to do things according to like a military style of training, and versus actually earning their respect and then becoming a leader within their community, even though he's an outsider.
So we're gonna move on to the huts in a minute, because I want to cover those before we end.
Yeah.
And I don't think this needs to be 2 hours. I think we could wax
Yeah.
poetic for 2 hours, but
We definitely could make it 2 hours, but
we
I
don't need it to be.
No.
So JJ, I agree with you that there needs to be some difference in personality, but I think the comic relief thing is too much. It's just
A straw too much.
to me it's too much. Like, I agree that we need to have a diversity of character, because that's somebody that learns, that evolves, that adapts, that changes. We'll have that, but that would have been funnier if he did that and then a Tusken Raider slapped him up backside the head. That would have been funny. Or punched him and knocked him off the bike. Like, yeah, fuck you for making fun of us. That's more of how I would have handled that. But again, this is a kid show, right? To some extent, this is a teen show. This is not a rated R movie. That, in fairness, Star Wars never has been, right? And Star Wars has always treaded that line. Charles does not like a lot of the animated stuff.
Yeah, it's the broadest public. They're trying to attract the greatest amount of viewers.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I will say this, and this is something that I did not like about episode 2. Nope, sorry, Chris. I'm sorry. I didn't realize you were. Go ahead.
Nope, you can go ahead. That's fine.
I don't enjoy the trope. I'm sorry, I don't enjoy it. This is not the seven. This is not the Seventh Samurai. This is the same damn thing they did in The Mandalorian. Oh, look, I found a civilization of people who have an issue. Let me help them with their issue and move on. This is not Kung Fu. This is not any of these other shows. You don't have to write an episode about, oh, I'm going to help the people less fortunate than me to make a connection. They did it. There was like 3 or 4 episodes where they did it in The Mandalorian. It's like the entirety of Firefly. And come at me if you want. I love Firefly. It is one of my favorite television shows. But the entire show is, let's go to a planet where you don't know anybody and help them fix a problem and then leave. Right?
That's Star Wars.
Well, technically he was there for 7 years, but yeah.
But you see what? But the thing is it's just one of those. It's one of those situations. And then to go back to the whole, he lost the fight in episode 1. Episode 2, he shows up at a biker bar and wrecks their shit. Like they're not even there. But he gets caught off guard in an open street and can't fight. And we're talking. I don't know what the difference in timeline is between Back to Tank needing Healy Boba Fett and I've been living in the desert off of nothing but water from black pumpkins Boba Fett. But you know what I mean? Hey, I'm not speaking badly of Firefly, Nobby. I'm just saying that when it comes to science fiction television, right, it is the same trope over and over and over and over and over and over again.
Yes.
If we want to do, look at Gandolfini in The Sopranos. He didn't give a shit about helping people. He gave a shit about helping himself, right? If Boba is going to be the Godfather, if that's the type of character that we want him to be, then he needs to be self-serving. But that's the way they're pitching it, though. This is good. I would like it if he was. He doesn't need to be nice. We already have a nice Mandalorian character, and it's terrible. They're not supposed to be nice.
It's not about him being nice. It's about him earning respect. Period. That's it.
You can
gain respect.
Iron Fist.
Yeah, assuming that there's not a language barrier. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. That's why we give him a protocol droid and call it a day.
So, I'm gonna have to agree with Charles though on the trope aspect that it's played out. It's old. The Mandalorian went back to it. Season 1 was not as much that. Then all of a sudden it's like about helping the child. I have to do this, and then he has to help everybody else so he can help the child. And it's like, stop. Like, just say, like, if the Mandalorian had just said, how much money does it pay so I can pay for my ship repairs to get the fuck out of here? That solves 80% of that episode. Boom, he goes, he does his thing, comes back, here's my money, get the fuck out. Because I only care about helping the child. I'm okay with him helping the child. What is bothering is it's changing his character to be this empathetic person. And not everybody's like that. That's not a fucking reality.
Especially
I like
when
you.
You're raised in a warlike environment. You are raised to be emotionless, and you're part of the Bounty Hunters Guild. You do what you have to do to get paid.
Yes. And the problem I'm having with some of this, and let's go, I'm going to go back to the Asajj book. The Asajj Ventress book, if you have not read it, is fucking amazing. Not the Dooku one. I hate the storytelling. The story itself is good, but the storytelling is shit. We lost JJ. We pissed JJ off, I guess.
JJ just done.
I'm back.
He's done.
All right.
Spectrum didn't appreciate your comments.
They're probably because they're owned by Disney. But okay, go because I really want to get to the Hutts in a second.
Yeah, go.
I really want to do that, and we'll wrap up with the Hutts. But the problem I have is that, and this is why I compared this to the Game of Thrones, right? Because in the Game of Thrones, there is no winners. There is not a single winner. It is closer to real life and how things would be to some extent than what we see in Star Wars. In Star Wars, we constantly see only good guys win. We don't see the bad guys win very often. Oh no, I lost Yoda. He's a Force Ghost. They're Force Ghosts. Oh, Obi-Wan, you're a Force Ghost. Qui-Gon, you're a Force Ghost. Wait, where the fuck's Darth Vader? Oh, he's a good guy Force Ghost. God damn it. Where did that come from? And this is where I get into where Boba Fett could change this. The Mandalorian is your appetizer for changing Star Wars as a child's program to an adult style program, right? Give me more adult content. And I'm going to say this very aggressively, I guess, because I grew up not watching a lot of even PG rated movies as a kid.
I agree, Maestro. I agree. The bad guys have better gear and weapons. They need love too.
All right. But I grew up not having some of this aspect, right? And I grew up in a very conservative religious atmosphere where everything is good versus evil. Everything. But that's just not true. If Charles comes to me tomorrow and says, hey, you know what? I lost my job. I can't pay my rent. I really need $1,000, man. I just do it. Need it. Me giving him $1,000 doesn't make me a good guy. Did I do a good action for him? That doesn't make me immoral for not giving him $1,000. Let's say I don't have $1,000. Like, it would mean that I would have to struggle a little bit for this. Does it mean I'm an immoral or a bad person because I didn't give it to him? Does it mean I'm bad because I didn't go out fundraising for Charles? No. Shit happens. Life fucking sucks. That's just a fact. And if you go back to some of the Star Wars books and how some of the comics are written, that's how they portray the series. Boba Fett has a chance to change that. The Mandalorian said, hey, hold on. I'm going to give you an appetizer. I'm going to give you a mix. Boba Fett could just come in swinging saying, I don't need to be the good guy. I don't need to be here.
I'm happy with that idea. I don't want Boba Fett to be a good guy.
Thank you. And like, I'm kind of in favor of that too.
Nobby, come here for the X-Wing, stay for the life lesson.
Yeah. Sorry. Like, and this goes into the whole discussion about the Hutts, right? There's a whole fucking arc in non-movie history about a bounty hunter war, right? Boba Fett is precedent to set up for this. This is like prime, untapped fucking real estate right here. And if we have to watch Boba Fett become this good guy that helps every fucking generation and doesn't punish, like, look, you know what he should have done? He should have killed the fucking mayor, and we would be like a light years ahead of this.
I think he should have killed the mayor. I think he should have killed the Gamorreans. I think he should have just. It needs to be Iron Fist. It needs to be Jabba. We need a bad guy with a character arc.
Yes.
They screwed the pooch with Kylo. We need a bad guy with a character arc.
And I'll go back to my Game of Thrones analogy a million times over. None of them are good in that show. None of them, if you read any of the books, you will understand there is shit that all of them do. Maybe Jon Snow, I could kind of concede, is overall a good guy. But for the most part, you're not getting that.
The only real good guy died in the first season.
Hang on. So first I got to go back. So there's a few things first, right? And number one, I had to switch to my phone because,
Hold on.
Anyway.
Nobody can hear JJ. Hold on.
I can hear him just fine.
No, but okay.
Yeah. So there's a few things, right? So they've already explored a world in this where they have a person who rules with an iron fist and takes over all the syndicates and holds control all of them. It's in Clone Wars season 5 when Maul comes into power and he forms Crimson Dawn, and he basically takes out the Pikes, he takes out the Hutts, he takes out the other syndicate that's in there, run by
Black Sun.
I forget his name. Yeah, Black Sun. Yeah, thank you. So and then he rules all of them under Black Fist from the seat of Mandalore. We've already seen that story before. So Boba Fett coming in to do the same exact thing, and it didn't work out for Maul. I don't think that that's the route that Disney wants to take. I'm interested to see how they develop this particular line, because instead of coming in with an iron fist, now he's actually trying to return these people and make them into allies, because I think that that's something that hasn't been explored for that particular type of thing yet. It doesn't make him a good guy. No, not at all. He's just going a different route of gaining control of the underworld that way. And I think it's just something that has to be explored and developed out further. We are reacting with limited amount of information basically right now because we've only seen 2 episodes so far. So I am interested to see how he takes care of the other syndicates that are involved, because obviously he let go of the Pikes that were there from the train scene from the end of it. He allowed them to live and let them know that, hey, you will allow you to continue to do this business, but now you're paying tribute over to these people here. So they either going to have to react by paying tribute and continue business as normal and possibly losing even more, or they form a trade, they form a bond with these people that live there now, and he's created that. And I think that's a story worth showing and exploring for Boba Fett, honestly. And I think that that's something that's missing from Star Wars, is that there is a potential for a guy to have that duality in them, to have parts of them that are good and parts of them that are bad. He can be ruthless whenever he needs to. If he needs to take out a couple of underlings, like the mayor and his assistant, that absolutely need to die.
100%.
But he'll let other people like the Pikes, who actually showed him respect and weren't like complete a-holes when they were addressing him, live, so that way they can continue to do business, right? Because it's easier to continue to do business than to bury a bunch of dead guys who no longer can pay you tribute.
I mean, we know, right, that there will be some sort of a a high council meeting or something of that nature from one of the trailers that we saw. We very clearly see Boba Fett sitting at the head of the table and addressing the rest of the syndicates to bring them in line. So we know we're going to see that. I don't know. Boba Fett's never been a bad guy, right? He's like we see him with the Empire, but the only reason we see him with the Empire is because the Empire could afford to pay him. The closest thing to what I've seen and what I want Boba Fett to be is oh god, what is his name from? Oh, why can't I think of his name? He was in The Usual Suspects. Benicio del Toro's character.
Oh yeah.
Well, hey, these guys are paying me more now. Then now these guys are paying me more. That's the character. He doesn't have to be good. He doesn't have to be bad. He doesn't have to sit in one of these boxes. I agree he can be both, but he can also be neither. He doesn't have to be good or bad. He doesn't have to be good and bad. He doesn't have to be a duality. He could be an absence of both. Where the money is where I need to be. And whatever makes me the most money is going to be the decision I make. And maybe we get that down the way. Maybe he's setting up a long-term plan or income. He's building his own 401k, Nabi. But that's what I want. I want a character that's not driven by the trope of good versus evil. I want someone that's driven by their own motive. And it doesn't have to be good, bad. Right? Like when he fought the Hutts, he didn't hate the Hutts. He has no ill will towards them. They just came to take what he's already taken. Sorry, I'm not down for that. You want to fight? We can fight for it. But I want it because I want this and you're trying to take it from me. That's not good. That's not bad. That's not both. This is mine and I want to keep it. And I'm okay with that character development.
Yeah.
And no, Mastro, just so you know, if they continue the storyline from the cartoon or from the comic books, that Wookiee bounty hunter is not related to Chewbacca in any way, shape, or form.
So now that we've given our opinions for this, what do you guys think? Predictions going forward?
I hope that the show gets better. I don't want to make predictions. I don't want to set an expectation in place. I want to enjoy it as it comes and react to it. I'm just happy that my guy gets more than 4 lines.
Fair. For me, I'm hoping to see another major character at least make a cameo in the area. Maybe Chewie, maybe Han. Probably Chewie would be easier because you don't need to bring the original actor, but you can if you need to. As far as for X-Wing, I hope that this actually creates a new Boba Fett pilot. Something that doesn't require rerolls. Something that's more like I want to see Commander Boba Fett. That's what I want to see, where he provides an action to somebody else at Initiative 5.
All right. For me, really the big thing that I want to see out of this is I want to see a divergence from the traditional trope of Star Wars, and I want to start seeing a more Game of Thrones-esque Star Wars where we actually get diversity and we get the blurred lines of good versus evil, and I no longer have to I can root for the bad guy and the good guy at the same time and know that Thrawn is just going to be the best character and will trump everything that we see.
Weren't the creators from Game of Thrones actually given a green light for a movie set for High Republic?
Yes.
So here's what I'm going to say to that, Chris. And while I agree with you, and I hope that's what we get, the reality of this situation is the mouse wants to make money. Children make more money than adults for Disney. Disney is going to market this as to whatever will sell toys and memorabilia and move money. And that is what's going to run the show. If you look at The Mandalorian and you look at all the gear The Mandalorian has, it has nothing to do with The Mandalorian and everything to do with that little green MacGuffin. If
Mhm.
you go to a Disney store here in Orlando and you want to buy something that's Star Wars related, if you find something that doesn't have Grogu on it, you are an amazing human being because there's not much. They are going to push whatever sells, and family friendly is what sells. So as much as we want this to be Game of Thrones, that's not going to be on Disney Plus.
Okay, so when I say Game of Thrones, it doesn't have to be that bloody
Yeah.
or any of that. Like, I'm just saying
Or incest.
Yes, we don't want to see the twins in the Star Wars universe.
We had Luke and Leia. We did have Luke and Leia, and you know that's the originator. But yeah, anyway.
I'm just saying is I think there is a ability to adapt the intricate storylines together better than they have done in the past. And I think that's where I'm saying I don't want. You're right. I would love to see a very violent R-rated Star Wars, but whatever. We're probably not going to get that. I'm fine with that. I'm more interested in the ability to blend different roles and different lines and create a more intricate story than we had before. Because what that will do is help fix some of the Skywalker post saga that we had to deal with. And it will help create a generation that doesn't grow up thinking Star Wars is nothing but Luke, Leia, and Vader and Palpatine. That's all I'm saying. Like, it would be nice to get away from that.
Man, Palpatine's going to show up again. Damn it.
No, I hope not. Maybe Grogu. Maybe Grogu is Palpatine. There you go. That's what I'm going to leave you with. Grogu could be the next Palpatine. We just don't know.
No.
All right. Thank you all so. Nope.
I was going to say, just last thing.
No,
I want the Hutts.
My last Grogu Palpatine rant.
I just want to see that the Hutts come in with M3A starfighters, Kirek fighters to come and attack the Slave One. That's all I want to see for this series. That's it.
All right. Fair enough. We will definitely see more of the Hutts. I guarantee it. So, we'll get into my Palpatine Grogu theory next week. That's what we'll do. We're not going to do that tonight. It's been long enough. It's definitely longer than we usually go. Thank you all for joining us. We will be back next week, 9 p.m. Eastern, with more of our after-birth discussion of the Book of Boba Fett. Have a good night, everyone.